Okay, so to get started with the second lecture, I'm continuing with the one we just left off on the last lecture on Mongodb report. The question here is why do we choose Mongodb over any RDBMS system? See, as we are already aware of the fact that the RDBMS system is an old traditional way of storing data, and they have been serving this entire data warehousing till many years, so they were recognized in such a scenario. But with the increase in data, the volume to store this huge volume of data into RDBMS is an issue in terms of the scalability and the performance. So keeping all these factors in mind, there are several scenarios wherein Mongodb plays a better role in comparison with RDBMS. One such is an e-commerce product catalog. If you're building an e-commerce site, blogs and content management, real-time analytics and high-speed logging, caching and high scalability. Then comes the maintenance of location-based data, which is more of a geospatial data. So in these scenarios, when the data is evolving with the requirements and the structure might not be consistent, it is obviously more advisable to use Mongodb because anyways the unstructured data format cannot be stored in RDBMS. So in my previous lecture or the video, whatever you call it, I have touched upon the insertion strategy wherein we were inserting the data one by one, that is one record at a time, one document at a time. But in case we want to insert many documents at the same go, then there is different functions available in Mongodb. I will just go on to recap a bit of what we did in my last video, and then let's go on to the new one. So we use connections. If you want to see the data available in the sub-dimension table, you can use this function, and you're going to see that there are 3 jobs data has been inserted. Let's insert a couple more here using this command. Insert many. I'll just show you one use case wherein the data insertion fails in case of insert many function, which is name, file, all the documents. wrapped it with the square brackets rather than form with the curly braces only. Insert many. Let's see what happens. And if you see here, we are getting an exception saying documents.map is not a function. So this error specifically means that this insert many function always accepts a list which is containing many documents in it. So we'll have to wrap this in a list rather in a square bracket. And with that, let's just see nothing has been inserted, right? Now let's do it. Here we go. And if you see here, once we wrap it using the square brackets, we have got an acknowledgement as true and a couple of object IDs have been assigned to those documents. Now if we go and find it, we'll see that some files have been inserted. So that's another way of inserting the documents using the insert many function, but again, this is pretty much time consuming, manual, effort intensive. So in ideal scenarios wherein we are getting the data from the live systems, source systems, we will not be inserting it like the one which I have just shown you. Rather, I will be dumping a batch of records. So those records will be in a JSON format. That those will cover in a later point. As of now, it's insert many and insert one are very important functions, obviously, to touch upon. Now once we see that insert one is inserting one record at a time, insert many, we're inserting multiple. How about insert function in this case, in that case, right? Let's try out only insert in this case, okay? And let's do it 7, 8, and let's see what happens. Now what we see is we have used insert, only insert, there is no insert one or insert many, and we have inserted 2 records. We're getting 2 records inserted, right? Let's see what is happening in the database side. And as you can see here, again the insert method is also inserting it without any issue, right? Now again, if I see, let's say sub 7 is already there, we want to add one more attribute to this particular record. Okay, so root source we're getting now sub, and there's an active flag. Suppose we're getting the sub is active now, and the active flag is saying what? Okay. Again, one very important, as we are mentioning, as I was mentioning to you right that initially, the structure doesn't matter to MongoDB. So if you see one single collection can have multiple structure. And for example, in this document is having 2 columns, 2 keys, right, and 2 values. Here we are having 1 key, 1 value. That also is not a concern. So these flexibilities are really an advantage in this present world with the data changing. Now let's insert it as well. Okay. Now if you see, we have inserted this, name is equals to sub 7, and 8. It's just inserting it, right? So this is a duplicate entry, if you see it. Right? Because the ID of a particular document, this document is different than this. So this record, even though the name is same, doesn't matter for it. It's treating it as different record here. So these things we have to keep in mind. When we are developing it in the application, real-time application level. So, as we have always made sure that there is unique constraints in RDBMS, the records are unique, we should also keep something as a unique key in Mongodb to ensure that the data what is getting inserted does not get duplicated. There is no redundancy in data, and the data remains consistent across the environment, right? So it's not really advisable to use the ID column because ID is a metadata. It is being generated by the Mongodb itself. But here, just to demonstrate this the small aspect of the application, if we would have used an ID column, which is a unique column here in our case, and if we would have used the same command as the previous one, we would have got this error. And if we would have seen this, no data got inserted because of uniqueness. So unique ID cannot be revisited with an insert. Rather, a unique ID which is already available has to be updated. That should be observed.